The Rolex Submariner is arguably the most recognizable watch of all time, transcending the category altogether to become a mainstream luxury icon. With 70 years of history, the question then becomes, does the modern Rolex Submariner live up to both its heritage and the incredible hype confronting the collection in 2023? In this video, we take a closer look at the 126610 LV, while in addition to that, talking about the broader modern sub collection in general. Let's jump in. So two helpful articles before we jump into this video. One will be our best Rolex watches for collectors. Really, this is a deep dive on some of the key pillars within Rolex's catalog, looking at some of their history, different reference numbers, and key considerations if you are looking to buy one or are interested in learning a bit more. Also, in addition to this, we have a comprehensive article looking at the storied history of the Submariner. We'll touch on some of it here, but we go into even more detail in how that collection was able to really create the now status that it currently holds and developing Rolex for what it is as a brand today. Check out a link to both of those in the description down below. Now, for the purposes of this video, we'll be focusing on a modern 126610 LV, sometimes referred to as the Starbucks or the latest generation of the Kermit Submariner date. And while the history of the Submariner model family dating back to 1953 is perhaps some of the best known in the world of watchmaking, Rolex's propensity for blending striking shades of green with the established Submariner format is more of a recent development. It all started in 2003, marking the 50-year anniversary of the model when Rolex unveiled the 16610 LV, pairing a black dial with a green aluminum bezel insert, quickly becoming a collector favorite and being given the nickname Kermit, and was only on the market for a quick 7 years. To follow up as an indirect replacement in 2010, Rolex launched the Hulk, the 116610 LV, which paired a new green Cerachrom bezel with the Submariner's first ever green dial. In 2020, the Hulk made its heroic exit, leaving room for a re-released and updated model that evoked the Kermit with a green Cerachrom bezel, black dial, and Rolex's new 32-35 caliber with 70 hours of power reserve, all housed within a 41mm Submariner format. So we're using this Starbucks model, as it's come to be known, as our reference in this video, which I find is more of a fun take on one of the purest designs in watchmaking history. Now, zeroing in on what has made the Submariner the phenomenon that it represents in 2023, let's start with fit. Like a number of icons that have survived decades on the market, the Submariner has made a few subtle but important changes to its sizing. While it started out measuring at 37mm wide when it was first introduced in 1953, the sub quickly made the jump to a then gigantic 40mm in 1959, cementing a dimension set that would remain largely unchanged for decades to follow. In the mid-2000s, Rolex made a subtle change in direction with the introduction of their Super Case, which bolstered up the lugs and created the rollout for the now collection standard for the ceramic bezel insert, creating just subtle changes in wear. In 2020, Rolex made another rare and largely unexpected fit adjustment, increasing the Submariner's diameter to 41mm for the very first time, while also making some refinements to the lug shape, with both of these changes being embodied by the Starbucks sub that we have on hand. Now, the latest generation sub actually measures somewhere around 40.5mm across at the central case, and then 41mm at the bezel, 12mm thick, and a relatively short 47.6mm lug tip to lug tip, and just around 50mm when factoring in that end-link to end-link measurement. The modern Submariner is a bit larger in some areas compared to its predecessor, yet it still manages to offer an overall wearing experience that I would call close to ideal for a mass market luxury product, a situation that is only improved by one of the best bracelets as well on the market. Now, set between 21mm lugs, which is an important distinction compared to the previous edition's 20mm lug spacing, the modern Rolex Oyster bracelet is almost as important to the world of watch design as the watch itself, inspiring countless brands in adopting a similar 3-link format that now almost feels like the de facto watch bracelet design. On top of looking the part, the modern Oyster is also frankly fantastic, offering solid end links, links that are screw adjusted, and the Oyster clasp that is frankly one of the best in the game, complete with the glide lock system that allows for a massive 2 centimeters of micro adjustment in 2mm increments. And while the clasp is long at almost 46mm, its length is put to work at offering exceptional range of adjustment. Now, bracelets historically are an area where Rolex was perhaps showing a chink in their armor, given the crown leaned into hollow end links and folded clasp for much longer than many other luxury brands and watchmakers in the segment, only making the change to solid milled bracelet components in the early 2000s. Now, despite coming later when it comes to this idea, when Rolex finally did go solid, they took the task to heart and produced something that is class leading. Another area of substantial change throughout the course of the Submariner's history is the case architecture, with the modern version looking like a different watch compared to the original versions released 7 decades ago. Of course, it's identifiable with that rotating elapsed time bezel, but the original Submariner didn't have crown guards, with that protective innovation coming in 1959 along with the jump to 40 millimeters. Since then, most of the updates have been relatively subtle, with changes to the crown guard shape and minor changes to contours of the lugs, including the aforementioned and polarizing super case. Now today, the Sub offers prominent crown guards flanking a large 6.8 millimeter screw down crown, utilizing the brand's trip lock design. The bezel is another area of more recent innovation, today equipped with a Cerachrom insert that first saw service in Rolex models dating back in 2005 with the GMT Master 2 family. In the case of this Starbucks model, the indices on the bezel are coated with platinum, as this is definitely still a luxury watch. For the die-hard vintage Rolex enthusiasts, these changes to the case as well as the use of ceramic are points of contention, but one would argue changes like these are necessary to remain up to date in the modern watchmaking landscape, all of which are aligning with the rapidly burgeoning subsegments of Rolex buyers that just want a watch that is less understated, and to remind other people that, yeah, they are wearing a Rolex. Set just within the confines of the bezel, we have the flat sapphire crystal equipped with Rolex's Cyclops magnifier, and then coated on the underside with anti-reflective material. In turn, the crystal allows for an unimpeded view of what is perhaps history's most iconic dial design. So like the rest of the design of the Submariner, the dial in the DNA from the original is still here, but the dial is another area where a feeling of modern flair have just made an indelible mark, with a number of touches that carry the watch farther from its storied diving roots. With a glossy black central surface, white gold surrounds for the indices, a heaping helping of dial text, and an engraved rehaut, the modern Submariner dial is no doubt a great example of a modern luxury sports watch. The classic Mercedes hands of old are there, the established geometric indices are there, the legibility is undoubtedly there, along with the printed crown at 12 and its other appearance at the bottom of the dial sitting between the Swiss-made text. Chromolite is indeed excellent, as despite its departure from the tool watch roots, elements of its utility such as this still remain. With much of the industry being quick to adopt longer power reserves, Rolex took its time in doing so, unveiling the 3235 in 2015 before introducing the caliber to the Submariner family as recently as 2020, when the model family made the jump to 41 millimeters. As is so often the case with Rolex, the caliber is hidden behind a sterile closed case back, but still offers a full suite of modern innovations and conveniences in keeping with this watch's luxury positioning and the $10,000 price point. With the power reserve of 70 hours still coming by way of 4 Hertz or 28,000 vibration per hour frequency and a single barrel, the 3235 is equipped with Rolex's Chronergy escapement, which recuts the escapement wheel teeth, hollows out its core body to reduce the weight, and shrinks the pallets of the anchor compared to a conventional Swiss lever to deliver what Rolex says is 15% increase in efficiency to the escapement's energy distribution. The escapement, in tandem with the Parachrom balance spring, is also going to alleviate magnetic interference, and in the case of Rolex's movements, they are not known for their ability to strike awe in their finishing, but rather simply running reliably with solid technical standards. Accuracy and testing standards are also at the core of what Rolex does, with this caliber being certified on its own by COSC before receiving additional Rolex adjustment and testing to lead to a final quoted standard of -2 to +2 seconds per day when fully cased up. So now some closing thoughts on the Rolex Submariner date, both on the 126610LV, as well as just the broader concept that is the modern Submariner range. Now let's just be clear. Say what you want about Rolex, but at retail pricing, Rolex produces some of the best watches on the planet. And perhaps they won't resonate with everyone, but given the stranglehold on the industry at the moment and being the largest they have ever been, it's safe to say that many are down with what Rolex is putting down. In my opinion, there is no luxury watch that is as recognizable as a Rolex Submariner. It is an icon, it wears well in a variety of wrists, QC is as good as any mass market luxury good, the finishing on the case is exceptional, the bracelet is class leading, the movements I have always found to be extremely extremely dependable, and the design is as timeless as you're going to come across. So is there honestly any bad? Well, in some ways, the biggest cons of this watch come from its own success. For those that do have Rolex fatigue, part of the reason I feel it is created for something like the Submariner is that you don't simply just see the sub when you're looking at Rolex. But even when you're looking at more attainable brands, micro brands, and even other luxury brands, the Submariner is embedded to varying degrees within so many designs in our modern watch landscape. And for some, that can be exhausting, causing this watch to lose its charm in the process. In addition, we also, of course, know the hype associated with the brand, which I don't feel the need to get into any further, as I've had plenty of time to do that in the past and have done so. But what I want to close on with this is this point. Is the Rolex Submariner at retail prices one of the best watches you can buy? I think the answer is simply a resounding yes. However, I would argue that the Rolex Submariner in front of you now is not the same watch as it was years ago. It looks similar enough, it wears similar enough, but the core ethos behind the product has shifted to Rolex's current approach of being a leading luxury producer of watches. I don't necessarily think this is all good or bad, as consumers are ultimately needing to make up their own mind on where they stand on this reality. A reality that in turn doesn't change the fact that this watch belongs in the pantheon of luxury watchmaking. But all right guys, that's my take looking at the current generation Rolex Submariner and just some of my thoughts. Interested to hear your take. I know this is a watch that, no surprises. I mean, most people, of course, know about this watch as well as any. But what is your take on the modern Rolex Submariner collection in general? Leave some comments down below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Really would appreciate that. Trying to close in on 1 million subscribers by the end of the year or something along those lines. I don't really have a goal for this, but it's just crazy to see that number go up. So I really do appreciate the support. Also, definitely check out TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. Also, how we're able to fund all of these productions is through selling watches. So if you are in the market for a watch, we know you can buy a watch anywhere nowadays, but we would absolutely love to have your business. It allows us to keep doing what we're doing, and we love what we do here. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.